It's warmer the more we sing. There's something about getting together that warms the inside part of you. I think that's happened this morning already. So try not to mess it up, Joseph. That's what I was thinking the whole time. And by that, I mean we're probably going to mess it up. So everybody buckle in. The lesson this morning, realize. Did anyone read that out loud and realize that you just said realize 3 times? That's like an old, Instagram post or something. I thought it was somewhat clever. You know my love-hate relationship with sermon titles. This one had everything to do with being a little bit funny. All right, but the truth of the matter is, the devil is a liar, and we need to realize his lies. That's as far as I'm going to go with that sermon title. The verse Chad read for us just says it so plainly. It says it so plainly. And here's what it really says. It says that if the devil is talking, what's he doing? He's lying. It's his native tongue. It's how he speaks. It's how he breathes. I've said in the past how the Bible will, the Bible authors sort of breathe the Old Testament, right? They're in the New Testament and they're writing things that are new, but they just can't do it without thinking like the Old Testament. The devil can't do anything without thinking lies, without breathing lies. It's in his nature. And what I think is really interesting is Jesus very quickly takes lying and murder and just links them together here in this verse. He was a liar and a murderer from the beginning. Now, in order to know what you're talking about there, you got to remember Genesis chapter 3. Truthfully, we could probably spend nearly the entire lesson just diving into this idea of the devil being a liar. But the reason I wanted to start with that this morning is not because that's where we're settling down, but because that is the launching off point for probably a couple of lessons in the future, including the one that we're going to talk about today, about lies the devil tells us. Because every time he talks, he's lying. There are things right now, right in this moment, that you and me and many people in the world believe that are nothing more than a perversion of the truth, a lie, told and sold and bought by the devil. Here's how he works. This is what Jesus is referencing in John chapter 8. In Genesis chapter 3, in Genesis chapter 1, God created and it was good. It was very good, and he gave him one job. Any tree. Genesis chapter 2, any tree. You got the whole garden to choose from. There's one in the middle that will kill you. In essence, don't touch the hot stove. It'll burn you, right? Not that you can't. You have every choice, but that one, you'll die. All right. Rules are pretty simple. Any tree I want, that one's poisonous. Stay away from it. The devil takes what is a very permissive command and turns it into a restrictive commandment. Because in chapter 3, he looks at Eve and he says, Did God really say you can't eat of any tree you want? Seriously? He put a restriction on you? And Eve responds with, well, no. He said we could eat of every tree we wanted except for one. And you almost feel her in that moment hearing it and going, oh, I guess we can't eat of any tree we want. And he says, listen, he's holding out. He knows that when you eat of that tree, you'll be like him. Genesis chapter 3 and verse 6. And he doesn't want that for you. He doesn't want what's best for you. He is lying to you to hold you back from your full potential. And Eve says, well, the tree does look delicious. And the devil said, you know what? You will not die. It's very important to see the playbook here, because Genesis chapter 3 sets the tone for what the devil does from this point forward. He doesn't come out wholesale and say, everything is good, everything, lie. It's not an obvious lie, because obvious lies are terrible lies. Everyone who has ever told a good lie or been lied to knows that the best way to tell a lie is to wrap it in as much truth as you possibly can. And so the devil, man, he's clever. He's craftier than any beast of the field, Genesis says. He takes the truth and he doesn't just scrap it and pick something new. He takes the truth and he adjusts it 1 degree. And that 1 degree of adjustment, just like an arrow moved off of its target 1 degree, has greater and greater and greater implication the further it goes. The devil didn't say that much that was wrong. He changed one word and changed one perspective of a commandment in Genesis chapter 3. And that lie, as it has gone on, has killed every human ever to live. That's the playbook. When the devil tells you a lie, let me be honest, when the devil tells you a lie, he tells you a lot of truth. He wraps the whole thing in a beautiful bundle of truth. And so our job is not to just outright reject everything the devil says, because he quotes scripture sometimes. Like, what are we going to just reject scripture? No, our job is to disentangle the truth from the lies. What is wrong with what he's saying? I know he's lying to me. That's what he does. But what part is a lie? He says God loves you, right? Well, what does he mean by that? He says that God said he's going to give his angels charge concerning you to Jesus. Well, what part of that is a lie? What is the devil doing to us? He's lying, but how? He's entangling truth with lies. How can we separate those and know the truth? Well, the obvious answer is the Bible tells us the truth. And so we need to, with wisdom, step into this battle with the devil, and with a lot of prayer and a lot of grace on our side, engage. Figure out the truth from the lies. That's what we're going to be talking about the next couple of times. This is kind of, I don't know how to describe this. My brain kept saying a sister series. You know, like you have sister schools that are like not the same school, but they're related. We've been talking the last couple times on Sunday mornings about reality. We talked about forgiveness. We talked about sacrifice and how Jesus' views of reality are wonky, but true. Like they bear themselves out in reality as being a blessing and helpful, even though they sound so counterintuitive. This is like the other side of that. Not only is Jesus' reality right, the devil's lies are wrong. And so often with our lives, with our actions, we choose to live the lies that the devil sells us rather than the reality that Jesus offers us. And so these series are definitely connected. So, the truth is depending on how I feel that week, we'll probably bounce back and forth between them. But they're two sides of the same coin. The devil's lies and Jesus' reality. This morning, we're going to look at one of the devil's lies, which I would argue might be one of his favorites. Okay? The devil really likes to lie to us about love. Now, this is what I mean. Love. What happens to someone when love comes upon them? How do we describe it? We say they fell in love, right? It's like this. You're like a victim. Couldn't help it. You felt an electric shock go through your body and someone pushed you off a cliff and now I'm falling in love. It's like a passive thing, right? We talk about love as like this overwhelming just sense of something inside of us that is bursting out of us, and that's love. And unfortunately, as much as I like to quote Disney, for really great biblically true things that Disney says sometimes, okay, especially Pixar, Disney is one of the devil's favorite tools for this, right? Follow your heart and love at first sight, true love's kiss. All of this is a perversion of love. It is not what love really is. Now, what I mean by this is that it's not real, okay? We can have any argument you'd like about soulmates. I believe soulmates are forged, not found. I think that's the way the world works. Now, this might not be something that you've considered before, and I want you to go with me a little bit into this idea. Because if love is a feeling and an emotion and an abundance of that feeling and emotion, what does that do to us? How does that work? Well, if it's a lie, it should kill us, right? That's what Jesus did. He linked the devil's lies to murder. He says the lies of the devil, they kill you. So we should see if this love is a feeling, love is passion, love is emotion. If that is a lie, then we should see it killing something, all right? For lack of a better description. This is every preacher's favorite stat. You've probably heard it 100 times. What's the percentage of marriages in America that end in divorce. More than 50. That sounds like assault to me, all right? That sounds like the thing that is meant to embody love, the thing, marriage, the institution that is meant to show what love is, the best in all the world. You've got a better than not shot that it's going to die. That's what statistics have borne out. That's what our culture's version of love and falling in love has given us. It's given us the murder of marriage, to the point that if you are, I don't know how often you scour the internet or have these conversations, but if you have conversations with a lot of people my age and younger, you will hear a lot of fear of marriage. That's why you never get married, right? You shouldn't get married. Marriage is terrifying. I can't believe people still do that, right? There's this fear of it. Why? Because there's a lie that has infiltrated our definition of love. And that lie has corrupted, as an arrow gets further away from where it's shot, it's corrupted what love really is meant to be. So, if love, the devil's version of love, Pixar, Disney's version of love, is in fact a lie, and if it has clearly murdered marriage in so many different cases, we've got to ask the question, what is love? What is it? All right, this is the other favorite thing. You all had to know this was coming as soon as I said the word love. In Greek, there are 4 words for love, right? There's a lot, right? There are 4 different kinds of love in Greek, whereas you and I all kind of use the same word for loving chocolate chip cookies and loving our spouse or our children. In Greek, they've got different kinds of love for that, right? Different words that all translate to love in English, but mean different things in Greek. The first one is storge. Storge is affection, right? That's all it is. It is the feeling that you have towards someone that you like. Positive affection towards a person. Storge, it's the kind of thing you feel for small children that are in your life that you love, how we would say it. It's the kind of feeling that you have for your spouse, that you have affection for them, you love them. It's the kind of feeling that you have for a close friend. It's a very, very general feeling of affection, storge, love. The second one is phileo, and you all know this is brotherly love, like Philadelphia. But think of it in more, words that we use every day. It's friendship. That's what phileo is. Phileo is friendship. And so when you feel companionship or partnership, camaraderie might be another word for this. That's phileo. It's like, man, that's my guy, right? That's my bro. We're tight. We're friends. That's phileo love. I love that guy, right? Okay, so then you've got eros, and that is sexual attraction, meant to be between a husband and a wife. It is the desire for intimacy with one another, eros. We won't dwell on that. Third, fourth, last one is agape, the one that most of us have heard. This is God's love. This is the unconditional love, is the way it's normally described. And I mean, I don't know that we can really go much further. That really is the definition. Agape means unconditional love. Love that is not based on and does not require anything else. It is unconditional. Okay, now, the truth of the matter is every love that you feel is a mix of these 4 in some way, right? I feel phileo for my kids. I do. I feel brotherly love for my kids. I feel friendship with my kids. I also feel storge with my kids. I also feel, agape. There's a sense of agape for my children, right? All of those are all kind of existing. For my spouse, obviously, there's eros involved. There's phileo involved. Like, all of these loves kind of overlap. And so to just pull them apart entirely is not really fair. That's not true to a human experience. However, for simplicity's sake, you separate these words because they do describe different aspects of love that you have towards people. Now, here is what the devil did. Like we said, he took the biggest love. He took all the love, I should say, and he just tweaked it 1 degree. If you don't think about it, it feels like love is love. That's confusing. We all know what love is, right? But when you zoom in a little bit closer and you look at these different aspects of love, there is one that the devil has made it his mission to erase. The devil's a big fan of eros. he really wants sexual attraction to run rampant in the world. The devil's a really big fan of friendship. He's fine with that. Yeah, have your friends. Bond over something that I like, though. He doesn't even mind storge. In fact, I would argue storge is the one that the devil wants to propagate the most. He wants you to associate love with affection. Love and affection. And he wants you to forget about agape. Now, maybe forget is a strong word. He wants you to take storge, affection, the feeling you have, the positive emotion you have towards people, and he wants you to put that definition on agape. And here's the problem. If your unconditional love is based on your emotions, did it just become conditional? Suddenly it doesn't make sense as unconditional love, because what about when I'm not doing so hot emotionally? What about when they're not doing so hot and I'm upset about it? Then is my agape still there? Okay, you see the problem. The devil just tweaked a little bit of what we believe love to be, and he shifted the balance from agape to emotion. Love is feelings. Now, this agape word, the reason the devil is so fixated, I should say, on that. Why is that the one that he wants to erase? It's because agape is the one that is most often used to talk about God. When the Bible says that God is love, it says God is agape. He is this unconditional love. When in the Old Testament, when it talks about God, Exodus chapter 36, when God describes himself, the Lord, abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, right? That steadfast love is the Hebrew word chesed, and more times than not, that word, when it's translated to Greek in the Septuagint, it's a whole process I'd be happy to talk to you about, but it's very nerdy. That word is generally, almost always translated to agape. So not only is agape what God is in the New Testament, agape is part of God's character that he describes himself as having in the Old Testament. It's like this fundamental part of who God is this unconditional love. Now, here's what I've always heard about that. And some of you might have heard this as well, but I think it's important throwing this out there, okay? This is what I remember being taught growing up. It was this. It was that agape is God's love. It's a love that is sacred and unique and special, and only God can feel it. That humans, we really can't do agape love. We can't feel that because it's unconditional. And so this is God's love. It's not possible for humans to feel it. And then the caveat with that I always remember hearing growing up was the closest we can get is the love a parent has for a child. Right? That's the closest we can get to agape, but really that's not even true agape love. Now here's the problem. Here's the problem with that is that whole sentence, that whole spiel I just gave you is entirely based on the feelings God has. Did you notice that? Okay, so why can't we feel agape love? Because we know ourselves too well. Because as much as I do love my children, woo, man, Sunday mornings are difficult. Bedtime is really hard, right? As much as I love my children, the affection dissipates very quickly when it's the 58th time we've had the fight, right? So I must not be able to feel agape love. Somehow God has this passionate love for me that just is unconditional all the time. Okay, well, if that's the definition, then somehow God in the Old Testament, when he still unconditionally loved Israel, also was angry with them. So his feelings are mixed, I guess. If that is the definition of agape love, then somehow in the New Testament, when God sins, God sins, goodness gracious, don't clip that one, Chandler. When we sin, right, God looks at us and just goes, oh, I come home. Okay, I think there might be some disappointment. I think there might be some, you can do better, because that's what loving parents do. Here's what I want to present. We have to let the Bible tell us what these words mean. And there are two parts of this. First of all, Bible words are just normal words, right? When Paul used words in the New Testament, he was just using common language to describe things. And so in order to understand that, we've got to know what he meant then. What did that word mean? How was it used when it wasn't written in the Bible? Because it was a normal word that a lot of people used. And when it was used, what did it mean? Here's an example. Please understand what I'm saying with this example. I'm tread gently, but the word gay used to mean happy, right? It's in Christmas songs. And as a kid, I couldn't help but giggle every time I heard it in a Christmas song. Don we now our gay apparel. I was always very confused by that. Why? Because the same word in the same language at different decades can mean very different things. So when we ask, what is agape? Is it a feeling? Is it an overwhelming emotion that only God can feel? Is that true? We've got to go back and let the Bible tell us what this word means. We've got to go back and we have got to find out what that word means when it was written so that we can then extrapolate from that to understand it in our context. So let's do this. A couple quick ones here. Obviously, we can't do anything without 1 Corinthians 13, but we'll get there in 1 second. Look at Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5. Jesus, Sermon on the Mount. I've worn this page very thin in my Bible lately with the preaching. He says in verse 43, you've heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, agape your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of the Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and the good and sends rain on the just and the unjust. Hold on. So is Jesus just setting the bar too high for humans to attain? Is that what he's trying to do here by telling us to agape, unconditionally love our enemies? I don't think so. I think he wanted us to do that. Okay, so then let's look at another one. Look at Ephesians chapter 5. Ephesians chapter 5. This is sort of like the part of the letter where Paul is wrapping up his argument. He's made his case and he's instructing the church in Ephesus on, okay, how do you live out everything we've talked about in the first half of this book? In Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 25, he says, husbands, agape your wives, as Christ agape the church and gave himself up for her. Okay, so when I'm mad at Courtney, am I in violation here? If this is all about feelings, can I even accomplish this? Is Paul giving me an insurmountable task here? Again, I don't think so. I think what's happened is our definition of love. We've bought the lie, hook, line, and sinker. We bought the lie the devil sold us. He just adjusted it 1 degree and we did the rest. We ran with it. We bought the lie because we have turned love into feelings. We've turned love into emotion. I'm going to say the most unromantic thing in the history of preaching, okay? I don't think love is about passion. I think love is about commitment. If that's right, if unconditional love, agape love, has nothing to do with your feelings and everything to do with your commitment, let's check that against what the Bible says. Okay, can I unconditionally can I be unconditionally committed to my wife? I can. Suddenly, that's a reasonable thing to ask. Can I unconditionally love my enemies regardless of how I feel about them? Pray for them? I can. I mean, I can't because I'm a little too selfish still. But that's a goal that you can. We've seen people do that. I've seen people love their enemies. Okay, let's look at 1 Corinthians 13. Bring this over to the love chapter, which is now the least romantic chapter in all of the Bible. There's context to this, but for the sake of time, we're not gonna dive all the way into that. Paul is basically making a case that love is a better way of living. And what does he mean by love? Commitment. Commitment and covenant. That is what he means by love. So look at verse 3. He says, if I give away all I have and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It's not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not provoked and it keeps no record of wrongs. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but it rejoices in the truth. Love bears all things, love believes all things, love hopes all things, love endures all things, and love never ends. Now, take a minute and ask, is it more likely, as Paul is encouraging Christians to have this kind of love, is it more likely that Paul is saying that you need to feel patient all the time, that you need to feel kindness, that you need to not envy or boast out of your just heartfelt, genuine emotion? Or is he giving you actionable things that don't require your feelings to be invested? Listen, the truth of the matter is, you don't have to feel patient to be patient. You can be patient, void of your feelings. It's really hard. I do it all the time with my children, right? You don't have to feel something in order to not keep a record of wrongs. You don't have to feel like, I just love him so much, I'm just going to let that slide. No, you just don't keep a record of wrongs. You just don't bring it back up later. You just don't add it to the pile when you're already upset. You don't have to feel something to bear someone else's burdens. You don't have to feel compassion for do the feelings help? Are the feelings from God? Yes. Yes. Is that what agape love is? No. No. Agape love is commitment, covenant, dedication. Agape love, the kind of love that God has for us, is always love. It's unconditional love. It's a commitment. In spite of how I feel, in spite of how you act, right? Because agape, unconditional, means it doesn't require anything from you. Regardless of how you act, I am going to do right by you. Now, okay, so love is commitment. Love is action. Love is action. Love is not a feeling that spurs on the overflow of action. Love is the doing of a thing. That is love. I am serving this other person. That is love. Love, not a feeling, but an action and a commitment. Let me show you one more spot. Look at John 21. John chapter 21. This is how it's always taught, the threefold affirmation that Peter gets to make at the end of the book. If you remember, in the Gospel of John, Peter denies Jesus 3 times. And by denies Jesus, I mean he denies knowing Jesus to the point of cursing at the people who are trying to tell him that, we saw you walking with him. No, I didn't. Right? In a huff, in the middle of the night, you see Peter's mind swirling. Did I really just deny him? And then people come back and get him again. They say, you talk just like him. I'm telling you, I never knew the man. I don't know him. And curse, I don't know if that meant he used swear words or if he brought cursings down on them. I'm going to go with neither one are befitting of a Christian. All right? Listen, Peter, 3 times, just outright denies even knowing the guy, let alone following him, let alone believing in him. Outright denies even knowing Jesus. And so then after Jesus' resurrection, you have this interaction between Jesus and Peter in John chapter 21 and verse 15. Jesus has died. He rose from the dead. He appeared to all the disciples. He's in the process during that time of appearing to all kinds of different people as being risen from the dead. And if you go all the way down to verse 15 of John 21, it says, when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? And he said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Okay, well now, this is Greek, so we need to ask, what kind of love is Jesus asking about? Well, the first time he says, do you love me? It's a phileo love, right? Am I your friend? Are we friends? Essentially, is what Jesus is asking. Peter says, of course we're friends. We're closer friends than most of the people here, which rings true in the Gospels. Peter was like apostle number 1, the graduate assistant, if you will, right? Like, okay, so Peter has no problem. Jesus says, are we friends? And Peter says, yeah, of course we're friends. All right, okay. And then he says, feed my lambs. Verse 16. And then Jesus said to him a second time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Do you phileo me? Are we friends? Peter said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. You know we're tight. Of course we are. We're bros. He said to him, tend my sheep. And then the third time, Jesus said to him the third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, do you love me? Okay, do you see why that's confusing? So Peter noticed a difference, but Jesus just said the same thing for the third time, right? Wrong, because Greek has different words for love. And so this is one of those spots where the Greek word changes the meaning of what's being asked, right? First, he says, do you phileo me? Are we friends, right? Secondly, do you phileo me? Are we friends? This third time when Jesus asks the question, he says, do you agape me? Do you love me unconditionally, right? Are you, to use our definition from this morning, are you committed to me? Now, why would that bother Peter? Yeah, of course. Like, if we're friends, like, I love you for, like, all the way. Well, because 3 minutes of reading time ago, and maybe just as few as a couple days ago, Peter knows full well he did not agape Jesus. He was not committed when faced with it. That when push came to shove, Jesus got taken away, and he bailed. He was not committed. He did not unconditionally love and stand by Jesus' side while he was being taken away. And so when Jesus asks him, do you agape me? Peter's answer, Lord, you know everything. You know that I phileo you. That's Peter's answer. He doesn't tell him, I love you unconditionally. You imagine Peter feels like, I can't tell him that because I haven't done it. Because if agape is an action, I didn't do the action. If agape is a feeling, I feel like Peter, the emotional swings we see with Peter, probably would have been all over it, right? But agape is commitment and action. And Peter knows, I didn't do that. And so he answers as honestly as he could. You gotta love Peter for that. You know I phileo you. I hope that's enough. If love is a feeling, then it's fleeting. It's not unconditional. It's not certain. You never know if it's going to be here one moment or be gone the next. If love is a feeling, your amount of love for somebody is dependent on how good of a night's sleep you got. Obviously less when you get less sleep and more when you get good sleep, right? Your love is dependent on your situation, on how bad of a day you had at work, on how much traffic there was. Your love is dependent on how good the team is doing. Listen, when Penn State loses, I feel it's harder to love people. That's what I'm trying to tell you, right? Like, if love is a feeling, then it's fleeting. It's actually nothing. Agape love, the love that God has for us, the love that we're told to have for our enemies, husbands for our wives, the love that we're told to have for our neighbor, that love has nothing to do with what the other person is doing. It has nothing to do with how you're feeling in the moment, and it has everything to do with a commitment that you've made and the actions that you do. Do you love? I don't know. But I could see it if you do, because love is a commitment. We are running so much out of time, so I'm going to fly through this. But I think this is really cool, interesting stuff, because if this is if this is true, right, going back to the Jesus reality lessons, if this love is real, right, if agape love, committed, unconditional, action love, if that's actual love, then we should see that borne out in the world, and we do. A couple of things. There's I don't know if you want to call it an ancient proverb or exactly how to describe this, but I heard somebody say that in Eastern culture, right, they take a cold pot of soup and they place it on the stove. In Western culture, we take a hot bowl of soup and we place it on the counter. This is a metaphor for marriage, okay? In Eastern culture, they have arranged marriages. And so the kids, because that's what they are, probably don't know each other all that well, may not even like each other very much. And it's a cold pot of soup, but it's put on a stove. And over time, that love, that commitment, becomes stronger. All the feelings of love come along with it later because there is a commitment to the marriage. And the cold pot of soup eventually boils over. In America, we have a tendency to feel extreme passion at the beginning of our marriage and then put that hot bowl of soup on the counter. And you know what one of the number one reasons for divorce is? We just grew apart. Irreconcilable differences, as they say. Well, It's not an always thing, but that certainly bears the proverb out. And statistics also bear this out. Cultures, these are so generalized, and I want to make a disclaimer at the end. But listen, love in cultures with arranged and semi-arranged marriages, love scores increase over time as couples build partnership and friendship. As a study done by Gillespie, divorce rates in cultures with arranged marriages are 5 times more likely, 5 times lower, right? So you are 5 times more likely to have a divorce in a non-arranged marriage as you are in an arranged marriage. Levinson and Gottman have studied that couples who maintain marital satisfaction over decades report high levels of friendship, shared meaning, and passion is all the way low on the list. There are also other studies that say that shared hobbies, shared decision-making, and mutual support and respect are a predictor of long-term marital satisfaction. Van Lanningham has a study from 2001 that says passion tends to decline over 10 to 15 years, but friendship and companionship can predict the success of a marriage later on. Now, here's what I am, 2 things I'm saying. One, I am not saying that I'm a fan of arranged marriages, okay? The arranged, if I were 36, I've got to fly through this, but if we were 36 minutes into this and you misunderstood that I thought arranged marriages are the solution to the problem of divorce, then you would be drastically misunderstanding. What I believe is that in an arranged marriage and in the cultures that those take place in, there is a premium on love as commitment. That's what they value, the commitment. In other marriages, in America, there is a premium on love as passion or happiness or feelings. The statistics have borne out which one of those keep people married longer, and the statistics have borne out which one of those end up happier. I don't think arranged marriages is the answer. I think rejecting the lie that the devil told us about love is the answer. Marriage is built on love. What do I mean by that? Commitment, action, agape, unconditional. I'm going to do the right thing by you no matter what you do to me. It's as simple, though not as easy, as what Paul says in Philippians chapter 2 and verse 3. He says, don't do anything from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others as more significant than yourselves. I mean, this is... Imagine a marriage in which you only ever did things married people do when you felt like it, okay? I mean serving the other person. I mean being intimate together. I mean upholding your responsibility in the marriage, going to work, taking care of the children. Imagine if you only did that when you felt like it. How long would that last? 72 hours, I'm pretty sure, is the record for the shortest. I mean, like, it's obvious. Marriage requires love. Love is commitment and action and treating the other person as more important than yourselves. 2 very fast examples. Ways that this is true. For me, when I was a parent, I remember thinking about 3 months in that something was wrong with me. I love being a dad. I've wanted to be a dad like my entire life. When I was young, I loved playing with kids and taking care of kids and holding babies, which is weird for a 15, 16, 17-year-old boy to enjoy that. But I always have. And then I had a baby, and her name was Bonnie. And did I love her? Absolutely, right? I demonstrated that. I woke up at night. I cleaned a lot more excrement than I ever had in my life before that time, right? Like there was a lot. Of course, I loved in the commitment and action sense of the word. But because I thought love was magical in the feelings, I remember talking to multiple people. My mom was one of them. The guys I was working out with was another group, about how it's not really magical. 3 months in. And I stand by that. It's not a magical time. Like, it's hard. It's actually agony. You whatever camaraderie you and your spouse had is gone, because she likely is consumed with the baby, and you likely are consumed with literally everything else. And so you guys aren't hardly friends anymore for a couple months there in the beginning. A bomb has just been dropped on your world. You're sleeping less. You're cleaning up more dirty diaper. Like, it is really, really hard. But the magic, the feeling, is not what love is. Love is the commitment. The magic, it may or may not come later. Usually it does. There's something about it that comes later, but the magic is not love. The commitment is the love. The commitment is what it has to be founded on. Golly, I've got to fly through this. This has an impact on our relationship with God. If what we believe about love is that it's emotional and feelings-based and all that, then it has an impact on how we relate to God. I have to feel my relationship with God. I have to feel love for God. Okay, so if we didn't feel it during the Lord's Supper, then we didn't love God very good, right? Yeah, that's how I felt for a long time. But what if commitment is what God wants from you? Then showing up is enough. Then praying, whether you feel like praying or not, is enough. The love that you show God is not feeling, it's commitment and action. When we look at love this way, it does a couple things for us. It becomes an attainable goal. It becomes something we can do. Not that we're going to be perfect about it, but something I can do. I can unconditionally love someone in this moment with this choice by letting them go now and wrapping up the sermon. I get it. I'm really sorry. Just a couple more things. When we love like this, it can be transformative. It's the metaphor I use all the time of going to the gym. You don't go to the gym only when you feel like it. You end up not being in great shape and not being very strong. You go to the gym every day because you made a commitment and you see zero results for weeks. And then, after a couple months, you look back and you go, hey, hold on. I feel a little bit different. I'm walking a little more upright. I'm doing a little bit better. It's a transformative process, not a moment of passion. And when you look at love like this, as a commitment and action, it is really, really hard to do it wrong. It's really hard to do it wrong. If you are loving someone, treating them as more significant than yourself, it's tough to mess that one up. We know what it looks like. We know how we would want to be treated. And there are a lot more right answers than wrong answers. If we're going to love like this, like God loves, agape love, unconditional love, we need to make the decision before we get to the moment. We need to remember that this commitment that we're making is not just to the person in front of us. It has nothing to do with them. Our commitment is to God first. And we need to remember that God loved us like that. I don't mean he felt gooey, mushy feelings for us. God was committed to us. That while we were still sinners, Paul says in Romans, Christ died for us. Jesus looked like he was experiencing anguish, not joy and cuddly feelings at the cross. But he did the cross. Love is an action and a commitment. And if we commit to love, this kind of love, if we reject the lie that the devil has sold us about love and we commit to love as action and commitment, it can change the world. It can transform our hearts. It can change the hearts of the people around us. And it can lead people back to God, who is love, agape love, consistent, committed, actionable love. If you need to become a Christian this morning, you can come forward, or if you need prayers of the church, just let us know we love you. And so we'll help you if you come while we stand and sing.